Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Cordam, we're back to continue our playthrough of Tyranny. In the previous episode we had a major event. I believe we finished Act 1. I'm not actually sure if the quest log shows it. It doesn't seem to. I did turn on the hide completed quest just to clean up the quest log a little bit. But yeah, in the previous episode we dealt with the leaders of the Oathbreakers, the Vendrian Guard, the Resistance. And as soon as we did that, we got teleported to the top of this massive spire we see here. We now also apparently own it. We even have this new menu here for the spire. It suggests that we have 5 spires throughout the game. There are apparently some spire upgrades, which you can also see here with some, I'm guessing, upgrade materials. Not sure what this power means either. And we also have some recruits we can get for our spire here. Oh, wait. 0 out of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we can't get them all, which is kind of annoying. But okay. We also have this screen here for the edicts, which I want to look at in a second. But right now I'm going to focus on my companions here, because they want to talk to me, and Barek even gives us a quest. We also have the Iron Marshal Erenios here, which needs a way out, and we also have Ebb over there, which we fought in the previous fight, but is apparently a companion also. So I'm gonna start by speaking with Barek. See what he wants. Fatebinder, if you have a moment. Barek's sense of attention is rigid bearing, making of him an unmoving statue. There have been a number of times since I came to your service in which I have not agreed fully with your choices. That said, never have I truly questioned your judgment. I hope this pattern holds after you hear the request I now make of you. Okay, relax, Barek, just tell me what's on your mind. I hope that perhaps the adjudicator would hear my case. I can adjudicate cases in the Archon's stead. This is something you probably want to appeal to a higher power. Okay. I have been encased in this. He wraps a gauntlet against the shards of a corroded iron and bronze that sweep across his chest. Shell. Since Kairos' Edict of Storms made the grave of old stalwart. It occurred in service to the Overlord, and I would ask that the Overlord free me of this burden. Aren't you more useful in your armor? I mean, I guess out of all of these options, this is probably the best one, right? I will happily make your case to the Archon. Thank you, Fatebinder. His salute rings like a poorly cast bell. Why no favor gained? I eagerly await the Archon's judgment. Yeah, that sucked. I would have expected... Oh. Cool. I would have expected some favor being gained with him. Petition Tunon on Barek's behalf. Can I do that through a missive? No, maybe we're gonna meet Tunon where we're going next. Which would be cool. What about verse?
So, the Scarlet Chorus and Disfavored are at each other's throats. Can't say I didn't see that coming, but the Archons might have waited until one war was over before they started another.
I agree. Do you think I made the right decision?
Fighting with the Disfavored?
Nope.
Well, not the call I would have made, but I'm sure you have your reasons. If you like iron weapons or something about that purple uniform excites you, then be my guest. Who can say? War is all about compromising your morals, deciding who lives and dies. What seems like a mistake turns into your greatest call down the road.
I just hope she doesn't leave me.
Let me make one thing clear, just so that there aren't any misunderstandings. You support Graven Ash, and I couldn't care less. I'm here because you've done what none of the Archons could. Not even the voices of Nerat would fault me that.
Ah, okay, so we've gained her respect.
He's also a complete bastard, and I wouldn't want to miss an opportunity to stab him in the gut and take control of his army. So, there's that.
Makes sense. We did learn from our previous conversation with her that she doesn't like him at all.
I'll say this much. Our time together is anything but dull. My blades are yours for as long as you'll have me.
Noted. Questions?
What do you need?
Oh, so we have some new stuff. We can talk to them both. I want to ask about our travels.
What did you have in mind?
This is probably not very interesting, but what do you think of our present circumstances? I don't know in what brain-addled state you thought this favored were the army to support, but I see you're committed to it. Of course you're free to do as you like. Zigzagging around the tiers, pissing off authorities as we go, I suppose there are worse ways to occupy one's time. Any particular reason you've chosen to travel with me?
Well, if you're baiting me for a compliment, you're talking to the wrong girl.
Damn it.
I don't have a gang anymore, and I wouldn't throw in my lot with any of the killers floating around the Scarlet Chorus ranks. The fact of the matter is you're doing important work, even if you stumble and flail along the way. If that puts me at odds with my Scarlet Chorus ties, so be it. I'm not such a camp follower that I don't look after my interests first. And I find you interesting.
Good.
You've satisfied your curiosity, so let me satisfy mine. Why are you keeping a little scrap of a thing like me around?
Okay, so we have potential romance here or something? You're a hardened killer, that's reason enough. I consider us friends, don't you? I have feelings for you. I kind of want to try that one. God damn it. Well, I can always load the game if something goes really, really wrong. I have feelings for you.
That's rich. What is it about me that squeezes your bellows? The bloodstains on my armor or the lice crawling underneath it?
Yeah, lice.
I hope I don't need to remind you that we're in a war. Find somewhere better to exercise your restless self. If not the battlefield, then a brothel. It always works for me when there's no sport around.
Okay, so I'm guessing no romance, but just a cool little dialogue, I guess. What do you think about travel companions? Okay, so Lantry. I've been meaning to ask about him. Lantry is talkative, reads when he isn't writing, and brings as much to the battlefield as a sick birth. Well, he does tend to die a lot. The warriors at your side shouldn't suffer from Elder's ache in their sword arm. You would be better served by putting him out of his misery. Okay, so we need him and that's all you need to know. Understood. You got something in mind you're using him to accomplish, then by all means let him tag along. But don't expect me to keep him alive. If he's pulling his weight somehow, feel free to clue me in, because I'm not seeing it. Barik? Well, I'll give him some due credit. He's more complicated than he looks. He's still an intolerant and apologetic bastard, but that's more his business than mine. What about Ebb? It's easy to respect someone who brings that much passion to a battle. Even so, when she gets to talking about pushing Carlos out of the tiers, she makes me want to carve my opinions on the matter across her back. Okay, so yeah, we haven't actually traveled with her before, but okay.
Go ahead, Fatebinder.
Okay, so I would like to discuss your apparent connection with Barik.
You've just got to know,
Nice.
don't you? I suppose there's no point in hiding it. Barik and I are siblings. We share a father, if little else.
Okay, this just turned into a Mexican soap opera. Okay.
I try not to think too much about some northern merchant dropping anchor in my mother's port, but it happened. And the fortunate result stands proudly before you.
What? Dropping anchor in my mother's port? Okay, I hadn't heard that expression before. I like it though. How did you two become aware of this?
There were a lot of lazy days during the conquest, and among other things, I spent my off hours using messenger birds as target practice.
Ah, God.
You should have seen Ash's anger when he heard that was going on. One day, I snagged a bird that flew from the hands of a proud northern daddy. The missive was about the goings-on at the family farm. I recognized the name and handwriting from a note in my mother's belongings. There weren't too many people named Barik in the army, so tracking him down was no challenge. I cornered him in camp, and we shared a few heated words. Some blackmail, even.
She tried to extort rings from me, and I was having none of it. Not even Graven Ash would think less of me for our father's indiscretion.
I like your confidence, but my ring belt is feeling a little light these days. Maybe you want to take me up on that offer, or I can start whispering in disfavored ears. Think about it.
Why would it matter to the disfavors? Do you even like each other?
I've tried to get along with that ironclad knot of repression, but it would seem he's having none of it. Good riddance, then. The war's tossed us together, but nothing says we have to keep that going.
Dropped anchor in my mother's port. God damn.
The most we do for each other is try not to get the other one killed, which is more than you can say for most disfavored and Scarlet Cores.
How has this affected you, Barik?
Well, Verse has a nasty habit of jabbering in my ear and making this war intolerable. I plan on parting ways and returning to the north at first convenience. My father will answer for his infidelity. Beyond that, I am happy to consider myself in every way unaffected. My superiors once accused me of having an impulsive streak, but I have worked to suppress it at every turn.
When you go back home, send Father my fondest greetings and thanks. If he hadn't gone to ground on my mother's dry dock,
Jesus.
I might not be here today.
Why so many meta time innuendo? Gone to ground on my mother's dry dock. Jesus.
My heritage was a point of pride and distinction before I met you, Verse. Not that you would care.
Have you noticed any significant impact, Verse?
I've asked myself about that several times, but unfortunately I don't have what you'd call a definitive answer. The Northerners put a lot of meaning behind family and blood. Seems arbitrary to me, but
that's why.
I don't want to discredit it entirely.
That's why she can blackmail him, I guess.
I told you about what happened to my Scarlet Fury sisters. The hesitation I experienced. Sometimes I wonder if that wasn't because of my connection to Barrick. He's stubborn, regimented, everything I'm not. I suppose there's no telling for sure, but if I had to guess... Yeah. Sometimes I get messed up in my head, and learning I had a brother has helped me understand that better.
Okay.
What do you need?
So, to both of them, have either of you noticed that you fight particularly well together?
The thought has crossed my mind from time to time. During the many battles of the Conquest, we found ourselves standing back to back with enemies on all sides on more than one occasion.
The big guy here is as useless as an empty scabbard without his phalanx to keep him alive, but I move fast enough to compensate for it. And it's nice having a living wall of rusted iron I can use for cover.
I want you two to train together. Wow. Do you think this is because of your shared heritage?
If you want to attach some arcane meaning to the whole thing, be my guest. I couldn't tell you for sure. I doubt that a capable tactician could explain why certain soldiers learn to rely on each other.
In the disfavored ranks, the Oathbound seem to know more about synchronizing their efforts, and the same could be argued for the Scarlet Furies. I don't know how they pair up their units, but it isn't by virtue of blood.
Okay, so how do you think this is possible?
I would suggest that our fighting styles complement each other, but they do not. I would suggest that we get along, but we do not. We don't even finish each other's
Sentences. Okay, that was strange. Did you hear that? The next time I catch a whiff of Barrick's meaning, I'm keeping my mouth shut.
I want you two to train together.
Absolutely not. Our fighting styles are incompatible, and any disfavored lieutenant will tell you not to join at the hip soldiers who can't stomach each other.
I'm inclined to agree. If you want to pair up fighters, there has to be some great passion or magnetism between them. We don't have it.
Okay, so what are our options? I could command you to train together. I can go for bluffing if neither of you is up to the challenge and I won't force the matter. What, like baiting them into the challenge? I'll try it.
Now see here, Verse's temperament and unpredictable ways are an annoyance, but no challenge is beyond my skill. Verse, we should take some time to face off in the sparring fields. It might even improve our disposition towards one another.
There you go.
I'd rather watch you devour your armor one shaved off spoonful at a time. But since that isn't going to happen anytime soon, I suppose I'll make an effort.
Okay, that's good, I hope. I wonder... Oh! Fury's Rage. Okay. Fear ability. Oh! Barik and Verse have gained a new combo build. What? They can combo themselves? Wait, because that would be very cool. Arrow Storm. Okay, wait. Yeah, so you still have your Iron Tolling, you still have your Iron Storm, and now you also have Arrow Storm. These are both one per rest, which is very restrictive. Verse fires several arrows into Barik's armor. When the last arrow strikes, Barik roars and the arrows burst out, striking enemies nearby. That's very cool. And this means like, okay, combos where I don't have to get involved. Okay, I'm happy with that. So you have it. Yeah, you do. What is this? Oh yeah, right. Furious Rage. Project intense flames towards Verse, which she catches on her blades and spins into an aura of wreathing flames around her. Nearby foes take burn damage from the flames while they last. Again, only one per rest. I'm always gonna have trouble deciding when to use one per rest abilities in a game that I'm playing blind, because I'm not sure if it's gonna be the proper time to do it or not. But it's cool that I have it. So if I look here. Okay, I do want to try and make sure I have more loyalty than fear. Okay, I'm not in any trouble of going wrong with Baric. Blade Grave's Grasp. A powerful attack traps nearby enemies in twisted spires of rock, petrifying them for a short time. It's not that short of a time. It's quite good. Okay, Ab is like that. Lantry. Oh, I don't even have this on Lantry? Wow. Okay, so Lantry.
At least in theory, I'm supposed to be observing history and not getting myself wrapped into it. All the same, this is the thrill of a lifetime. Rarely does one stand so close to monumental moments in the making. If given the choice between a multifaceted hive mind of treachery and a surly old soldier, General Grumps is the wiser choice. It's patently obvious which Archon is truly loyal to Kairos.
Okay.
So, I must ask, are you planning on taking sides in the Civil War? Or do you have other plans?
Again, man, I keep getting kind of pulled into into such an option of my plans are my own. But maybe I think I'm gonna stick with my original plan after this favorite. I keep saying this, but I keep getting conflicted. I'll go for this kind of medium option. For so long as it suits my purposes, I will ally with this favorite. Or ally with this favorite.
The Archon of War is about as noble as a professional killer can be. And unlike the voices of Narat, he doesn't bring with him a gaggle of rapists and pillagers in his wake. The disfavored could use your help. They are outnumbered, and I'd say outwitted by the opposition.
Outwitted, you say? I'll have you know the disfavored boast the most capable strategists of Kairos' armies. If we're outwitted, it's because the motives and tactics of our enemies are too brainless for any rational soldier to grasp.
It's easy for us to criticize General for being outwitted. How many battles has he led? Hash lent me his best stone shield in a time of war. His loss, am I right? If he's such a great general, how did he get in a pissing match with a mob of miscreants? Okay, I'm a bit confused as to what this is gonna do here, but I'm kind of complimenting Baric with this. He lent me his best stone shield in a time of war.
A kind sentiment, but hardly one that proves my point. If you're trying to shield the scholar with empty compliments, you're wasting everyone's time.
Damn it.
Whatever you do next, consider that many eyes will be upon you. For you have both delivered and taken away the Overlord's edicts, and few will know how to make sense of the latter. You are an exception the Archons cannot afford to ignore. They will likely aim to control or destroy you.
Have you heard of edicts being broken before?
Most of Kairos' edicts were either worded to end in a manner of the Overlord's choosing, or the edicts have simply continued in perpetuity. That's not to say there haven't been stories of broken edicts. They're just uncommon. The oldest is, I think, Golbraith and the Edict of Sorrows, and that tale dates back to around the year 110. Aside from you, the most recent was the Edict of Twisting Grasses, back in 380. In all these stories, Kairos' edict very clearly gives its victim a single way to escape, and someone manages it. What's never happened is the pure abatement of an edict, like using a spell of warding or cancellation.
Was in her mind, did you want to discuss matters of the present, or would you prefer a more scholarly rant? Current matters?
Of course. How can I help?
Okay, so basically the same thing as verse, but kind of different at the same time. Know anything about the region we're in?
The Spires predate us all. As far as I know, we're the only ones who've been up here since... ever? I think this might be a first. Perhaps the real Trailblazer had trouble getting down and was lost to history. Of course. How can I help?
Huh? Again?
The Spires Of course. How can
Interesting, it doesn't grey out. What are your thoughts on traveling associates?
Are you asking for an objective assessment? Or is this your way of saying you want to gossip?
So, Barik.
He is a proper Northman, with duty in his blood. Which makes me suspect his loyalty to Ash is stronger than his loyalty to you. As long as your interests remain aligned to Graven Ash, this shouldn't be an issue.
That's actually a good question. If I had chosen the Scarlet Chorus, would I have lost Barik?
I must admit, I am completely fascinated by his predicament. Ever tried diagramming the articulations of his armor? Don't. It'll only lead to madness and ruination.
Verse?
I know little of swordplay, and couldn't work a curve and arrow to save my life. I can't really comment on the lady.
Lady? You're just afraid to talk in front of me, clear as day. Your sweat is easier to read than your ink scribbles.
No, not at all. I just don't know how to comment on a warrior's worth, that's all.
Spare me your blather.
Verse pauses to read Landry's body language.
Huh. Think that, do you? Didn't know you had such swollen hope for me.
No need to keep secret, Landry.
A most fascinating specimen. I think she has great potential. Dangerous amount of potential, to be blunt. The Scarlet Furies are the fighting elite of the Scarlet Chorus, and that means floating to the top of a sea of blood and chum. We should consider ourselves lucky to have her on our side, with her weapons usually pointed away from us.
Okay, I'm gonna keep the... I mean, I guess I can see it, because we haven't traveled with Ebb yet, so these comments are not very... don't make a lot of sense.
Good tidecasters stay underwater. Kairos did the Tears a favor by erasing those moon howlers from history.
Damn.
A shame one of them escaped justice.
Okay, I didn't know you didn't like her.
I like that I make you this agitated. Considering all the things that don't seem to bother you in the slightest. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of getting off on how much power you're giving me here.
Ugh. And then there's your coquettish act whenever someone calls you on your teeth. I'll be the one ready to tangle when, not if, you decide to pounce. I am nothing if not a semi-reliable font of knowledge. What did you want to discuss?
Okay, more about you? Wow, did I not see this before? How do you feel about Kairos? Loyalty 1. How can I not help but find him to be the most captivating person alive? The man has bent empires, claimed continents. Where he goes, history follows. I won't deny he has killed millions at least, but I contend more would have died in petty wars across Taratas in the void of Kairos. I have seen what tiny despots, merchant cabals and mage guilds can inflict in the names of all sorts of righteous causes. I will take the rule of Kairos over the tyranny of every idiot on Taratas. Fair. So did I not see this really? What's your story? Tell me the origins of Lantry. Someday, someone half your age will ask you to sum up your life and you'll realize what an odious request that is. Well, where to start? I grew up in Sunder. I'm probably not going to read all of this right now, by the way. I was born right after independence from the realm of Stalwart. So yeah, do the math and you'll realize I'm old. In a treaty that ended with the firm stipulation that Sunder chose to leave and that Stalwart did not lose civil war, the free city of Sunder marks 347 TR as its year of independence. He's pretty spry for 84. Holy crap. Okay. My parents were harbor hands. My mother never returned from a voyage and my father lost his hand to infection and decided to sell me to the school of ink and quills. Jesus. Any other family? Irrelevant. If they exist, they are strangers. Family ties are severed when joining with sages. At least in principle, the school has had its share of favoritism for blood relatives. As a novice, I was assigned to the Dove Coats, where I learned how to raise and groom birds to carry missives, and most of my early tomes are on that subject. 10 years and several tomes later, someone decided I was ready to be welcome into the inner circle and shown the ways of magic. And since then, I have spent a great deal of time in field study, which I suppose readied me for life after the fall of Vellum Citadel. Well, as much as anything could ready one for the strangeness of these days. So were you born in Lantern, or did you take that name on joining the School of Ink and Quill? Most sages take a new name when they join the school, but for me the transition was difficult at first. I stuck to my old commoner name and then just never got around to picking some highfalutin name like Sage Apophysis or Sage Dangling Participle. Okay. So this is your true skein? Did you always want to be a sage? I cannot imagine doing anything different. I suppose in my youngest days I yearned for battle and glory like most boys I knew. Having now seen how short a soldier's life can be, I look back on that old calling, that old mindset, and laugh. I agree. So really, what's your story? What do you mean by that? Subterfuge. I know you're smarter than you act, extend me the same courtesy. Nice. Lantry strokes his beard, leaving flecks of sepia among his white whiskers. I was on a take from the voices of Nerat. Or at least an agent of his sent me to the School of Ink and Quill 30 years back. What? It would be years later until I made the connection to the Archon. Most people think the war began 3 years ago, but the voices of Nerat had his hands in things sooner than that. I was part of an early invasion, an eager kid happy to accept a 30-year assignment that comes with an education. What else aren't you telling me? You read the Edict of Fire, you were the messenger of Kairos' judgment on my work. It was about then that I decided I'd need to take an interest in your skein. In truth, I am deeply curious about any who have lived as vessels to Kairos' most supreme magic. When I heard you were proclaiming a second edict, I had to find a way for us to meet. Being tied up in a prisoner camp was not the intended plan. So you advocating surrender to Kairos was the end of your long plan? Yes and no. When I first left, I was just happy to be getting educated by the sages on someone else's rings, and my orders were simply to listen and report. As the time drew near, my commands were to win them over, a little at a time, to the notion of surrender. But I failed. The elders of the school grew defiant, and the militant minds were won out. These are Tearsmen, after all. I didn't deliver the surrender, and it took the Overlord's edict to end what I was sent to do. Okay. Thank you for telling me. Now, no more secrets, understood? I will endeavor to earn your trust as best I can. Sorry to have given you reason for doubt. That's very interesting. You mentioned raising birds earlier. Think you'll go back to doing that? At some point, yes. Good birds are needed to keep the missives moving through the tiers. I set all my best birds to flight before the edict. Turn of phrase, constant caw, and the rest... They're out there somewhere, and maybe when this is over, I'll summon them back and start a new dovecote. Or dovecote. Something.
I am nothing if not a semi-reliable font of knowledge. What did you want to discuss?
Okay, it's actually relevant to do this because I want to unlock his loyalty combo. I would like to discuss arcane matters.
And I'd be happy to oblige. Ever since the fall of the Vellum Citadel, it is hard to find someone with whom I can discuss such things.
Okay, so what do you know of Kairos' edicts? Kairos has cast many over the ages, and to my knowledge has never worded two edicts exactly the same. Edicts defy our understanding of magic. Kairos' magic works over, over vast distances, over indefinite durations, and no arcane or mere mage can counter the force of an edict. What can you tell of edicts in general? I explain it to my students like this. A spell is to an edict as a drop of rain is to a hurricane. Edicts and spells are both magical cantrips, but differ in intensity by orders of magnitude. Edicts are almost commands to Teratus that must be carried out until the instructions allow for the magic to end. If Kairos wants a plague until next Judge's Day, expect copious buboes until next Judge's Day. Nothing has ever dispelled an edict, nothing outside of the edict's own sunset clause, as I like to think of them. Okay. I'm gonna skip this one for now. Do edicts work on the same arcane principles as spellcraft and other magic?
Edicts are the strongest manifestation of magic we know, and they seem to violate all other lesser phenomena. No dispel cantrip has ever dented or abated an edict. Even Archons with powers of great durability cannot shrug off their effects. Just look at Cairn. Now, what I find curious, edicts can flex a little. Or so my studies suggest this is the case. Take the Edict of Storms. While the day it was proclaimed was the most violent, the actual radius of the storm has changed over time. But most will have none of my hypotheses on this matter.
Fine, I'll take the bait. What's your conjecture about edicts?
So, in my studies, some edicts resolve some problem of the overlords and then vanish into history. But the edicts that linger around, almost all of them begin to widen. Their effects become more intense.
Okay.
Here's the intriguing part. The older the edict, and the more that's written about it, the more the reports of that edict get more dire over time.
Perhaps edicts have a life of their own once set in motion?
Something to that effect, at least. I contend that edicts are powered by fear. Fear of Kairos helps fuel the casting, and fear of the edict feeds the magic, sustaining it, and, if enough people fear it, even growing it a bit.
Rule by fear is certainly Kairos' way, or edicts just feed off the landscape once set in motion. Look at what has become of Azure and Stalwarts. I'll try this one first.
Intellectual honesty demands that I study the matter more. If I'm correct, the more people fear and obsess over an edict, the stronger it becomes. Anyway, another study for another time.
Okay, so something else.
I'll be happy to oblige. Ever since the fall of the Vellum Citadel, it is hard to find someone with whom I can discuss such things.
What do you know of the magic of the Archons? I have studied many of the Archons for many years. Compared to the other sages, I'm an expert on the subject, which is sad because I feel like I've still so much to learn. How does their magic work? The Archons all have magical powers that are intuitive. When the Voices of Narad pulls out someone's mind or Graven Ash protects his soldiers, that magic isn't a signed spell or ritual. To them, it's closer to flexing one's hand. Archons are the... what's the word for it? Axiom of magic, the root of magic, spell pioneers. While every guild or school of magic will ascribe a name to the theory, all mages inevitably stumble upon an inescapable fact. Only the Archons can will magic into being, everyone else can only cast magic by invoking the sigil of an Archon that has come before. None know how the Archons do their magic, it seems to be different with each Archon, but theory suggests that once an Archon starts to invoke their powers, anyone else who comes after that Archon could, with the proper knowledge, tap into that power with the proper sigil and know-how. This observed law has given rise to a common question from young students. Could one guess at a sigil of an Archon not yet born, or not remembered by history, or simply unknown by the caster, and successfully cast a spell? Experienced mystics would tell you this is impossible, for they know that it's not enough to just mimic the gestures of a sigil. One must have willful, conscious knowledge of the Archon and the intended power being channeled. Interesting. I'm sure this analogy is off many ways, but I see Archons as the mothers of original magic, and everyone else is just imitating them. To confuse things a bit, some Archons learn to cast other spells in the same fashion as lesser mages. If you are as important as an Archon, you learn quick that all knowledge is power. I have studied many of the Archons for many years. Compared to the other sages, I'm an expert on... Oh, okay, we read this before. Are all Archons loyal to Kairos? Officially, yes. In actuality, no. Those with true gift for magic always come to the attention of Kairos. A few manage to evade attention for a bit. The School of Tides was founded by one such uncontrollable, but these are history's exceptions. A culted Jade, Archon of Tides, never bowed to Kairos, and it's said she survived the assassin sent to silence her. It makes her flight from Kairos before the war all the more troubling. We knew her as this symbol of strength, but when threatened, her weaker nature won. When we write biographies on the Archons, we often refer to them as exarchs, in their formative years before stepping into their prime. But officially, Kairos is supposed to grant all titles of Archon. It's quite a faux pas to self-appellate something. Exactly why Jade insisted on calling herself Archon of Tides. She didn't need Kairos' approval to wear the title she deserves, and I know she loved the fact that doing so must have annoyed Kairos. I have studied many of the Archons for many years, compared to the... okay, again with that. How is an Archon born or bred? I think we all dream of one day waking up and being an Archon. Given some of the madmen and loons that have exhibited mystical greatness, it can seem unfair that the rest of us can't do it. I can say with confidence Archons aren't born, they become. Graven Ash is a good study of this. Before he was the Archon of War, he was a successful commander, each victory more daring and glorious than the next. Somewhere along the way, his leadership took on mystical qualities. Oh, you know what he's telling me? This is kind of hinting that maybe we can become an Archon as well. And because we kind of like, we flew at the end of the last episode, I'm kind of wondering if we're getting power in that sense. The Graven, maybe even the power bar in the Spire thingy. Oh. The Graven Ash we know today can reach out and protect his soldiers from harm, but maybe at first he could just protect those near him. I wouldn't know for certain, but all will attest that he didn't have this power his whole life. Okay, something else.
And I'd be happy to oblige.
Yeah.
Ever since the fall of the
Spellcraft.
Citadel, I've forgotten more than most blood chanters have ever learned. What do you want to know?
Can you teach me anything?
I think you know all I can teach you.
Damn it. What sort of magic did sages teach you? Sage Sinden tutored me in traditional sigils, those of preservation, concealment, and healing, as derived from the bygone archons of Taravis, Fading Wrath, and the Orphan Midwife. Oh, the Grieving Mother. The preservation magic is largely functional, sealing parchment, binding books, that sort of thing. All of us chroniclers learn concealment magic, as our ideal method would be to study events without contaminating the decisions being made. As for the healing magic, many of us modern sages study this at a great deal. The school has a shoddy reputation among the common folk. I figured if they knew us as healers and caregivers, maybe we start to change opinions. Healing, now that sounds a noble craft to study. Or, I'm gonna go for this one. They didn't teach you to conjure lightning or something fun, sounds boring. God damn it! I wanted more loyalty! Yes, well, I suppose boring attracts fewer enemies and dangerous. The way I see it, we've already invented enough ways to kill each other without magic. Why bother? Let me see if I can get some more options here. What can you tell me about citing magic? Scholars don't have a good word for what Archons do when they cast magic. Couldn't tell you how Graven Ash casts his protection over his soldiers, nor would I know how Blood Mark consciously decides to move through a shadow. But when us mere mages want to cast a spell, we do so by citing the sigil of an Archon that previously discovered the magical phenomenon in question. It's debated whether Archons create new magic or just discover magic that was waiting for us, but such questions seem impossible to answer while sober. Okay, that's all for now. Actually, wait. Oh no, we got loyalty! Nice! Wheel of Ages, anything else? No. Oh, that's actually very good. This dialogue bumped us up very highly. So, Wheel of Ages. The fate binding and Lantry work together to create a slowing aura around the party member. Foes within range of the aura are slowed. When party members move inside the aura, they will have their hostile effects suspended. That's actually very cool. Very, very cool. For how long? Oh, that sucked. Oh, no, wait. Emitting foe for 30 seconds. Okay, 30 seconds. So if they are nearby, they get this debuff for 5 seconds. But I'm guessing as long as they stay nearby, it's gonna refresh. I hope so. 3 meters, we suspend hostile effects. Okay. That's cool. And what do you have here? Theft of memory, steal energy from a target and grant that power to the Fate Binder. The enemy loses access to some of their abilities and has a portion of their attributes stolen, while the Fate Binder gains a bonus of all attributes. Okay.
One moment, my friend. Just let me finish this thought.
Ending his load to the flourish, Lantry licks the tip of his quill, pausing to taste it a second and third time before tucking the pen in the holster on his sleeve.
I am nothing if not a
because we had more things here.
What did you want to discuss?
What can you tell me of the School of Ink and Quill?
You mean what's left of them? What would you like to know?
What's the core philosophy of the School of Ink and Quill?
The sages are archivists, academicians, and arcanists. Our mission is to preserve the knowledge of today for the good of tomorrow. Though we are known for our magic, few realize that most sages concern themselves with scribal work. Only a select few have the talent or focus to work the sigils. Each sage benefited from the scrolls of learning that came before him, and so each sage must repay this boon by gathering, authoring, or translating new texts to the stacks. But all that's a bit generous. It's no secret that the sages were far more happy to add knowledge than to share it.
Why did they resist Kairos?
Why, indeed. As historians, it is our place to document, not direct. Let others rage and resist. Ours is the duty to record. The decision to defy Kairos was not unanimous, nor one decided upon lightly. The laws of Kairos would forbid much of the knowledge contained in the Vellum Citadel. The elder sages feared, rightly perhaps, that the Overlord would put an end to our tradition of stockpiling knowledge. The Battle of the Vellum Citadel was a battle to preserve knowledge, but our actions will be remembered as treason against the will of Kairos.
Tell me a bit about the school's history.
The sages trace their days to a generation after Five Wives, when the first settlers moved west. The Vellum Citadel began as a scholastic retreat, slowly blossoming into the finest library in the continent across the generations.
The Five Wives is the name for both the historic landfall of seafaring human settlers on the Tiers, as well as the name for the archipelago where the first, now largely abandoned, settlements were founded. In centuries past, the historic event was known more properly as the Five Wives and the Seven Husbands. For as the story goes, 7 ships made landfall, and after 2 seasons of difficult living, the 7 husbands got back on their boats and see what else was nearby, and all perished. Many suggest this is just a parable used to explain the gender roles of land ownership, and admirably in the Tiers, admiralty in the Tiers, but the nobility take the origin story quite seriously, and nearly every noble house in the Tiers has a family mythology linking them back to these 5 fabled matriarchs.
The centuries fly by, and suddenly, the Vellum Citadel is the definitive archive in the Tiers. The sages branched out into carrying missives for wealthy clients, training noble children to read. The peasants may have feared us, but we remained useful enough to the kings and queens of the Tiers to avoid war. When Kairos came to the Tiers, that's when our hubris came back to haunt us. The elder sages, the other elder sages, not I, believed our spellcraft was enough to ward off any siege. Well, we know how that turned out.
What sort of sigils do the sages practice?
Traditionally, we use magic only so that we may observe and archive. So that means magic of concealment and protection. But, in truth, we have amassed a great wealth of knowledge. Before the Vellum Citadel fell, any given subject of magic had at least one sage practicing it.
So you're admitting you had at least one agent of yours studying the magic of the Tidecasters?
Well, I mean, if such information had fallen into our hands generations ago, we'd be fools not to...
Not to suckle off that ill-gotten teat of knowledge? Filthy word whores of the worst degree.
Yo.
Edict of Fire wasn't half of what you deserved.
Okay, she's very she's very aggressive. I can see this conversation is going to very constructive places. Both of you drop it.
What would you like to know?
Okay, that's all for now. Right, now, I did not intend for this entire episode to be dialogue, but I think it's gonna be because I feel like I need to speak with her before I interact with the Spire as well.
Salutations, Fatebinder. Or should I now call you Lord of Vendrian's Well? The Spire King? Prince of the suggestive vertical slab.
Yeah, so Cordon will suffice.
So if I might ask, what is your plan now? The edict no longer looms overhead, and Kairos' conquest of the Tiers seems to be slipping. What with the armies and civil war.
Yeah, so we read this briefly in the last episode, but I kind of want to give it some more attention now. Yeah, but I'll pick the same option, I think. First order of business, I should speak with Tudon. I don't want to align myself with anything just yet. Or actually, I don't have an option to go with this favor unless it's this one here. I will crush the remaining local opposition and complete the conquest. But yeah, first talk to Tunon.
I would counsel you to do just that. I'm sure the events of Vendrian's Well are best explained from your mouth to Tunon's ears. Furthermore, I'd guess the Archon of Justice would want to know your take on the Archons and their divide.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm improvising any suggestions. I mean, maybe this can get some information out of her.
My first suggestion would be to build a boat. Something durable, and take our chances on the high seas far from Kairos.
You're not helping.
I have a second and more practical suggestion. Look to the horizon and slightly up. By that I mean the other spires.
Mm-hmm.
We should see what's atop the others. Otherwise someone else might look first.
Okay, so what do you know about the spires?
Not nearly enough, apparently. To me, they've always been axioms of navigation. You can triangulate a lot of things with the sextant and a clear view to a spire or two. We've long known the spires radiate strong magical fields, and all save the mountain spire connect to the old walls. So it's the sort of thing common folk know from afar, but avoid day to day.
Okay, so that's all I have for now.
Well, short of Tunon giving you orders on pain of death, you have the luxury of acting on your own volition. Though the Scarlet Chorus are likely to come for you.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you decide, I'm at your disposal.
Okay, have a moment, let's speak further.
What is it you need?
Okay, so we can add her to the party. I don't want to do that just yet. Discuss matters at hand.
Now we're working with the disfavored. You want my advice? My advice would be to get close to Graven Ash and plunge a poisoned shiv in his ear.
And how exactly do you think one goes about doing this?
Well, if you're working with Graven Ash, give it your all. Offer to help the Archon of War with whatever he needs. The stronger the Legion, the weaker the Chorus. And if you get close enough to him, well, with enough trust, you could get very close to the Archon of War.
I wonder if this is a possibility.
I'm not saying it's a quick plan, but I think if you stay close in his confidence, the moment to strike will reveal itself in time.
Okay, questions.
Ask away.
Oh god. Let's speak of magic.
You know, I normally charge for this, but for you...
Eb smiles awaiting your query. What can you tell me about your magical tradition?
Now, you know that's a very personal question. The knowledge I have is a centuries-old gift from the Archon of Tides. I would sooner discard my life than the sanctity of that gift. I will speak in generalities only.
Oh my god. That's a lot of options. Tell me about how you influenced Stratus' grave. I'll start there. There is a trade secret, or at least that was trade secret up until a few years ago. My masters were taken before Voices of Nerat, and he pried that wisdom from their minds. Not that I'm still bitter. Conquest decision. Yeah. So, the now defunct School of Tides was largely conquered before any troops crossed the gates of judgment, with much of the school learning of Kairos' intended conquest and opting to flee and take their chances across the unknown expanse of oceans west of the Tears. The last of the Tide casters joined with the defenders of Apex, clashing with Kairos' forces in 429. When the generals could not decide on how best to deal with these water mages, you broke the deadlock, select the Voices of Nerat's plan to have the mages met by a flood of conscripts to be taken alive for the Archon interrogation. While the trio of Tidecasters slew hundreds on their way down, the water mages were ultimately overwhelmed, brought before the Voices of Nerat, and never heard from again. Okay. Tell me how you influence ice, mist, and other forms of water. With years of training. Now look, most of these secrets have already been stolen ages ago by the sages. Doesn't mean I'm gonna tell you just because the secrets are already out, but it means you can go ask someone else if you really feel so entitled to know. And before you ask, I've learned plenty from knowledge stolen by the sages, but no, I don't know how to do what Eb does, magically or otherwise. Can you teach me what you know? I suppose I am capable of it, but no. The secrets of the Archon of Tide dies with me. I can command her to teach me what she knows? That's probably a bad option. What are the philosophical teachings of your magic? There's a question I can answer. It would surprise you little to learn that we see all things, people, wars, seasons to be cyclical, waxing and waning through their various forms like the tides and the light of Taratus' grave. The planet has 2 satellites visible by the naked eye, the tide-locked Taratus Grave and the rapidly orbiting Interloper. Scholars have long studied the effect of these 2 moons on the ocean currents, and a great deal of folklore concerns the origins of the moons. A common belief in Kairos' empire is that Taratus Grave will finally set on the horizon when Kairos' rule ends, whereas those of the Tears insist the moons are older than the old worlds and will outlive even Kairos. The mind is limited. We're born and spend our lives dodging death. We expect all stories to have a beginning and an end. We assume all things start and stop just like us. In truth, all things are cycles, some by matter of minutes, other by matter of years or lifetimes. In School of Tides, we appreciate patterns of all sorts. Most are called to the depths, others find their interests skybound, many still find the tides of human emotion and political fortunes far more intriguing than inanimate tides found in the orbits and oceans. From what archon of the tide do the Tidecaster draw upon for their magic? The first Tidecaster were given the gift of magic by our school's founder, Occulted Jade Archon of Tides. Okay, so the founder of Tides... Okay, I guess I'm committed to reading everything. The founder of the School of Tides as well as its only ruler. Though she wore the title Archon, Occulted Jade never bowed to Kairos, though many have tried to compel her to do so. Having arrived with the settlers that made landfall at first at 5 wives, she is perhaps the oldest known living Tearsman. Capable of manipulating the oceans, the moons, and all transitory forms of water, Occulted Jade used her magic to form a cabal of seafaring traders, musicians, and academicians. Academicians. And it was a dedication to the arts that helped the school endure, for by teaching these traits to children of noble families, the school remained in the good graces of the realms. Being able to control most anything cyclical and fluid, Occulted Jade has lived for centuries and could still be alive today, but none know its certainty. In the years before the conquest, the schools of Tides discovered the Overlord's plan to invade. Despite all assumptions that the Tyr's resident Archon would defend their school and home, to the surprise of everyone, the Archon vanished across the seas, taking nearly the entire School of Tides with her into exile across uncharted waters. Though she was not of Kairos' ilk, she was as powerful as any Archon, and from her name and legacy we can mimic the moon's pull on the seas and change the currents. And it's from her that we have spells to turn the moon's pleasant hues into a baleful ray of searing gravelight. Gravelight is the magical term for the light of the moon Taratus Grave, specifically when harnessed and manipulated for nefarious purposes. While the moon's rays are normally incapable of causing so much as a mild sunburn, the Tidecasters have long studied magic that can concentrate these rays into bolts and beams of searing doom. The Tidecasters have spent centuries trying to mimic and control the moon's tidal pull on the oceans, and will often mention that diverting moonlight is the easy stuff compared to pulling and pushing the tides, but modern times have forced the School of Tides to concentrate on the more martial applications of this magic. I'm guessing you can tell me more than I ever wanted to know about the moons? You're right. You'd be right. My magic is generally associated with the moon Taratus Grave, but you have to know where Interloper is in the sky when mucking about with mystic forces. So again, read about the moons. Lore. Do you control water or do you mimic the tidal effect the moons have on water? Both, actually. I'm amused you're keen on the difference. Our spells of ice and mist affect water directly, but are of limited volume. Displacing your own body weight in water is no mean feat. But if I were to move an ocean current, I'd drive myself nuts moving water in front of a boat a little at a time. That's where I'd use a cantrip to simulate a tidal pull. So Taratus Grave is a big one, right? Tell me about it. Taratus Grave is fixed in the sky, always overhead day and night. It was first named by folks living far to the east. They'd look to the west and see the moon like a permanent hill on the horizon, a grave where the sun dies each evening. That's how the older folks saw it. If you live in the western part of the world, Taratus Grave is overhead all the time. This means that day and night it's reflecting the sun's rays, and if you know what you're doing, it doesn't just reflect, it magnifies. Interloper's the one that moves in the sky, if I remember the lessons correctly. Exactly. Interloper orbits Taratus at a steady clip, and its orbit sometimes crosses in front of Taratus Grave, leading to mystical calamity if you don't know what you're doing. Okay. Have you heard anything from the Tidecasters that left before the war? No, and I don't like entertaining the hope. Those cowards are all gone. If they didn't die at sea, they are dead to me. I reserve the right to be pleasantly surprised if they come back, eager to fight a good fight, but I'm not holding my breath. All the brave Tidecasters died, present company accepted. Fine, we can talk about other arcane matters.
You know, I normally charge for this.
Okay.
But for you...
What? Do you know anything about the magic of the Archons? Enough to know I'm out of my element, that is to say, I have studied the many Archons a great deal, and I have a great number of hypotheses and conjectures, but, well, I'm no expert yet. Unlike most who have invoked the Archons of times past to work magic, I do wonder what difference of birth or experience gives one the magical potential to be an Archon. Most of my studies have been into the question of origins of form. It's known we can emulate the magic of Archons that came before us, but is it possible to tap into the magic of Archons yet to be? Second. Sorry, I got a call. So far the answer seems to be no. She looks at the ground with a rumpled smirk. Know anything about the old walls and the spires? Not enough, never enough. Eb smiles, swirling her staff in her hands. As a child I was terrified of the old walls, I think that's true for most folk. Now that I can arc Gravelight with a wiggle of my fingers, well, I think when I'm a shriveled old hag, dying in the old walls would be a great way to go. This is just because she can manipulate the moonlight. What can you tell me of the Bane? What I know is largely taken from Master Camberdel's work and some near-fatal experience venturing close to the old walls. As best I understand it, the Banes are bits of magical will that have an extended life of their own. I'm of the belief that they nest or reproduce in the old walls, the only place you regularly find them. What is this? Our magic attacks a Bane, that much I know to be true firsthand. Again, this is personal theory, but I'm guessing they eat or drink magic, so our spells are invitations to dine.
Ask away.
Yeah, okay, so a lot of this will have to be done in a separate episode. And yeah, I couldn't even get into much else going on here. I guess I'll check out for hidden stuff here. To the west, you see the shining spire of Lethian's Crossing. Oh. But can I actually see it? No, I cannot. To the east, you can see deep ashen clouds surrounding the burning library. And nothing else. Okay, well, I had big plans for this episode. I wanted to interact with that. I wanted to get some more out of Eb, but I'm guessing it's gonna have to wait. Let me just check something here, because you are loyal and not feared. You are good as well. I don't like the way you are standing right now. And Eb, we have the loyalty thingy, and we're close to the fear thingy as well. But I want to try and balance this out a little bit. I need more loyalty out of her. Okay, so yeah, this will be it for this episode, my friends. A lot of things to read at this stage. Learned some very interesting stuff from Lantry. We got the request from Barek. We know they are siblings. We learned about Eb, we learned about the two moons. A lot of stuff. Cool stuff, actually. I actually think, I was gonna say, I was thinking about this while I was reading this dialogue. I would say these are probably among the most interesting characters I've ever seen in a game. Of this style, at least. Maybe it's just because it's the first time I'm seeing it. That's certainly possible. But they are very interesting, and they're also very, very different. Like, they all have a very different way of acting, their personalities, their allegiances. So, very, very cool to learn about them all. Especially Lantry, with the whole infiltration based on, or at the call of the Voices of Nerat, which I wasn't expecting. So, very, very cool stuff here. As always, my friends, I want to thank you all for being here with me in the channel, watching some Tyranny. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Questions, suggestions, anything at all, leave a comment below. If you are enjoying the content, consider subscribing for more, many more videos coming out soon. It is also a free and easy way to support the channel. I hope to see you all in the next episode, and until then, stay safe everyone.